So last year I made a video on how to make dowels with a nut. It wasn't super informative, and you know what? I'm not gonna lie. This one probably isn't going to be either. I wasn't even really gonna post this, but my wife was like, "Yo, you gotta bring in that moo moo cash cow, all right? So start posting videos." So I was like, "All right." Reason being is it kind of failed today. This thing works really well with making dowels out of pine, but I thought I'd try it out of cedar today, and it kind of didn't really work out too well. So I thought I'd just show you the footage of what went wrong, and then you guys can kind of have a better idea of what works and what doesn't with this nut dowel maker technique. Funny enough, this was like my most popular video last year, and I really haven't done much with it since. But I do think it's an interesting idea, and I would like to keep working at it. So one of the most common comments I got about this was, why am I not just buying dowels? They're super cheap. Because I got a lot of comments about that. Some pretty sarcastic ones too. But like I said, I want to make cedar dowels right now, right? You can't just go out and buy cedar dowels. If I wanted to make some out of exotic woods, I could. The other thing is, when I do go out and buy dowels, they usually end up like this. They're very uneven. This one's got kind of like a ridge going down the middle. Sometimes I'll have a huge flat spot going across the entire length of it, and the quality just isn't really what I'm looking for. And I also find that sometimes they're a little bit undersized. So if I'm able to make my own, I can choose what type of wood I want. I can get really creative with exotic woods, and I can get the exact size that I want. Now, I suspected that I would have problems with the cedar because it's so soft and it usually has a tendency to tear, but I thought I'd try it out anyways. Let's go ahead and set this thing up. You can see here that I am starting with square stock. That was another thing that came up in the last video. A whole bunch of people thought I was starting with larger round stock, like a larger dowel, and turning it into a smaller dowel. And they thought that was quite pointless, as would I if that was what I was actually doing, which it wasn't. So there you go. This is indeed square. Oh yeah, actually one more thing that came up. A lot of people were concerned that if I'm putting this nut in the clamp and I'm squeezing the clamp down, or sorry, the vise, that it would kind of distort the size of the dowel. But this nut is surprisingly stiff. It doesn't really move. I don't even know if it moves at all, to be honest with you. I know in theory it could if you clamped it hard enough. But I do have an idea to fix that in the future, which I'm going to save for another video. Anyways, as you can see, there's very little flex in this thing, so to me, not an issue. So I basically start by carving a little point into the end, and then I carve the other end small enough to fit into the chuck of my drill, and we're pretty much set to go now. So let's go ahead and try it out, and yeah, it's not going to go well, all right? It's not going to go well, but hey, what the hell? I can show you what I did to try to make it work. So some of you probably noticed my first mistake already. I tried to clamp the nut in with my soft jaws. The nut was definitely moving around because of that, so I don't really know what I was thinking. So anyways, took the soft jaws out and clamped it directly into the vise, and that holds it in nice and solid. And it wasn't quite working, so problem number one, it probably wasn't sharp anymore. That was something that came up in the last video, was how long does this stay sharp for? And I didn't actually know, but I could tell it wasn't sharp, so I sharpened it up with my file, and that did help a little bit, but I felt like it was starting to take even bigger chunks out. So, like I said, cedar's a little bit tricky with tearing, and if things aren't 100% perfect, it's not going to work really well. Now, I did try to adjust the angle of the little tooth that I have on here, and by the way, go ahead and watch that first video. And I think there's some better shots of the tooth that I filed on here. I explained that a little better, I think. Although some people think I didn't explain it well at all. Oh, it's hard to please everyone. Anyways, I did find though, if I had the file angled this way a little too far and sharpened it like that, I got huge chunks flying right off the dowel. It was really digging into the wood too much. So then I shifted my file over this way a little bit and filed it that way, so the angle wasn't so steep, and that made it a little bit better. So if you happen to try this and you're having trouble getting this lined up, it is a little bit tricky, but sometimes it's just a matter of a slight change in that angle, and you're good to go. Also, the grain of the wood makes a big difference, and as I've already said, the type of wood that you're using. I haven't tried with hardwood yet, but Maybe one day I will. The other thing I could try is using a steel that I could harden, because I do know how to harden things, and I have a small forge that I can use. So that could be interesting. I think if I fine-tune this and really get it working well, I'd be willing to make it out of steel that can be hardened. Alright, so with those slight adjustments, I kind of got it working. I did get some cedar dowels. You can see me struggling a little bit at some points, and that's where the grain was getting a little twisted on me. I'm actually kind of surprised that I didn't break these, so that's good, but they are a little rough, a lot rougher than I want. They'll still work for the project that I'm using them on. I'm just going to be plugging some holes, and that's pretty much it. I was looking for some contrast between cedar and pine, which I think will look really nice. But here's a close-up of the pine dowel that I did in the last video. This is exactly how it came out of the nut, and I actually didn't do any sanding to it at all, and you can see it's a lot smoother. So there you go, just a whole bunch of food for thought about the nut dowel maker. I know, kind of nutty, right? I do want to keep working on it. It is different. I think that's probably why that video did so well, because I don't think anyone really tried to make this out of a nut before, and it's something that everyone can have access to. There's obviously a million different ways to make dowels, as we all know. Actually, my wife didn't know, though. I told her about this video and she's like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I don't know. It's like a whole thing on YouTube. People try to find the best way to make a dowel. Anyhow, it's a thing. Alright guys, I guess that's it for now. Thanks for watching. Try it out, see what you think, see what you can come up with, and we'll see you next time.